One of the things that seems to be amazing to a lot of these modern day pundits and politicians and poll takers, and the career politicians, I should say, is the fact that Black Americans, African American, foundational Black Americans, whatever you want to call it, are beginning to shift towards the Republican Party. And in effect, they're getting back to their roots, because the first Republican president was Abraham Lincoln. And Black Americans used to run away from the Democratic Party, especially considering that it was founded by white supremacists, Ku Klux Klan members. That's where it has its roots. And they had never been the friend of Black Americans until Lyndon Baines Johnson came along and made them a bunch of promises through social programs and kind of bought the Black American vote with civil rights. And civil rights, as they've since taken away or diminished, and social programs which really just throw Black Americans into a cycle of poverty. But the main tool that politicians, specifically these career politicians, have used to keep Black Americans on the Democratic plantation is that they will tell you that the other side, the Republican Party, is racist. They're racist. All their policies are racist. They'll tell you that people that you, white people that you embraced in the Black community for years and made rap songs about them, like Donald Trump, the minute he declares himself a Republican, he's a racist. And that's worked. That's kept Black people from voting Republican or even thinking about voting for anybody else. Matter of fact, all you have to do, or back in the day, a few years back, all you'd have to do is allege that a public figure or actor or entertainer was racist, and that would just make them, I guess, they lose their career, you know. But that's something that I want to talk about today. Make sure you hit the #1 button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. As you guys see, I'm broadcasting from my vehicle because I don't have any internet, but you know, I think this is an important message, so I wanted to take the opportunity to, while my city repairs itself, shout out to everybody in Houston, Texas, everybody in H-Town. Somebody type H-Town. We're with you in the chat room. We're getting better. We're doing things. We're getting back to normal. Hurricane Beryl. Hurricane, let me tell you something. A Category 1 hurricane is still a hurricane. And we've been without power for about 7 or 8 days. No internet, but, you know, as a proud Texan, I'll promise you that we'll be back better than ever. But so racism. I remember when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was quoted as saying, and many of his ministers said this too, that racism is as American as apple pie. It is so interwoven into the fabric of this country. It's never going to go anywhere. It's always going to be here, because embedded in racism is the sense of, I'm better than you. I'm better than you. And because I'm better than you, I deserve more, and I'm willing to do whatever is necessary to get that done. Embedded in that is a sense of competition. Embedded in that is a sense of my group against my group can beat your group. And so when they say capitalism and it fosters racism, they're right. Because capitalism is all about competition. And as long as there's one group of people that think they're better at something than another group of people, then they're going to use that as, I would say, fuel for their rise. The truth is, racism is just an outcropping of the human ego. I think I'm better than you. I think that the people who are like me, my group, is better than your group. There are differences between us, and that helps me on a psychological level work harder. Nobody wants to feel like they're less than another group. So in effect, racism is not only an American thing, racism is a human thing. It's tribalism. It's not going anywhere. This is the thing that I want black folks to understand. It is not going anywhere. Racism is here to stay. It's going to be here as long as there are at least 2 human beings on the planet. Period. If there was a group of people who are identical and some of the people lived on top of a hill and the others lived down in the valley, then those 2 people, there would be individuals in that group, those 2 different groups, who would come up with reasons to think that why they're better than the other group, and the other group would come up with reasons thinking why they're better, and therefore they're more entitled. At its essence, that's what racism is. The problem with racism is when it becomes systematic. When, because you think your group is better than this group, and because you have the power to do so, you then team up with the people that look like you, and you systematically oppress the other people that don't, or who are different, the others. And that happens when a group of who's in power said, well, we're going to designate where you live. We're going to designate where this other group is educated, or the limits imposed on their education. We're going to determine, that they have less social status. We're going to limit their movements throughout a society. That's when racism becomes systematic. When they begin to govern the mechanisms necessary to sustain life, education or advance education, housing, employment opportunities, those sort of things. Who you can marry. When they begin to regulate those things unfairly, that's systematic racism. And African Americans have gone a long way to undermine systematic racism here in the United States. But what we're not going to ever do is change some hillbilly redneck's opinion of you, or for that matter, some white liberal on the East Coast who thinks they're better than you, and because of that, they can tell you what to do, or the West Coast. That parental racism is as bad as that outright Confederate flag racism, as far as I'm concerned, because one group can't stand you just because of the color of your skin, and the other group pretends to love you, but in reality they think less of you and they want to tell you what to do. But nevertheless, it's racism. It's not going to go anywhere. Systematic racism, yeah. We can come up with laws. We can come up with the Fair Housing Act. We can come up with employment discrimination, education discrimination, anti-discrimination acts. We can do that. Voting Rights Act. But you're never going to stop that person from not liking you. You're never going to stop them from not liking you for the color of your skin, your ethnicity, or whatever. It's not going anywhere. And I think black folks have finally got to the point that we don't care if one particular politician or another is racist or not. I think we're at this point, at least I know I am, that I'm going to vote my interest. And that is a milestone for black people because it signifies a certain political sophistication, in that you don't have to like me for us to be able to do business. You don't have to like me for me to be able to profit from this relationship or this exchange. I don't have to like you either. And that's what's going on, because see, for years we thought that the Democrat Party liked us, and we equated with them liking us with them treating us favorably, or groups of us favorably. That's what we equated that with. On the other hand, you got these doggone Republicans who are full of rednecks with Confederate flags, and they got all the former slave states as Republican states. And we're like, yeah, we don't like them. But at the end of the day, when you begin to look at it, and they don't like, and we don't like them because they don't like us. But when you look at the policies that they impose, especially now, anti-immigrant. And when I say anti-immigrant, I only mean they don't want illegal immigrants coming over here. running up the job market, or running down the job market, in other words, driving down the price of wages, that does not really affect black people in a negative way. Anti-baby deletions. Considering the fact that African American women have aborted millions of to the tune of 20 million black children since Roe versus Wade, the Supreme Court made the decision on Roe v. Wade in 1971. Baby deletions has not been good for us. So why would we vote for the party that does its best to make sure we're stuck out on welfare, that we have, baby deletion clinics in every black neighborhood, that is soft on crime, the crime that for the most part black folks in black communities are victimized by other black people? Why would we side with that group? We side with that group because that group says that we like you, because that group says that we're not racist, when in reality their policies are not in our best interests. So what I think is happening now with this, well, first of all, when we talk about Joe Biden, there's never been a more racist president that has ever existed. This is the same man that was anti-busing because he didn't want black children turning white schools into jungles. I'm paraphrasing, but for the most part, that's what he said. This is the same man who came up with the 1988 crack bill, which specifically targeted African-American drug users who utilized crack cocaine, and totally ignored, not totally ignored, but did not have the same penalty for powder cocaine, which is predominantly used by white folks. And apparently his own family members are out there smoking crack. Shout out to his son, young Biden, and probably white powder cocaine too. This man came up with that bill. He literally sat there and authored it. His mentor was a KKK member. I don't forget his name. I don't know if it was Bird or whoever it was, but the name, y'all put his name in the chat room. But what I'm saying is, and that was racist legislation. It specifically targeted black people. Yeah, he's a Democrat, but has his body of work been in the interest of black people? And what about the 1994 crack bill, which basically ran up the score when it came to time? Instead of getting 12 months, you get 120 months. Your third strike. Another law which specifically targeted black men, separated black families. This is Joe Biden. What he did was he used the judicial system to craft laws which systematically target black people, specifically black men, destroying the black family. This is systematic racism. It's not some hillbilly calling you the N-word as you walking down the street going for your morning jog. It's nothing you can do about that guy. But systematic racism, that's the stuff that separates families. That's the stuff that undermines family wealth and stability. That's taking fathers and grandfathers and uncles out of the black community, and brothers, and sending them off to some cage somewhere in the middle of nowhere to be housed for the next 10 months while the community goes to hell. That is what Joe Biden did. That's the type of racist you're dealing with when you're talking about Joe Biden. And yeah, he might have handed out a few token jobs to some judges here and there and some cabinet members, and he got that young Haitian girl out there speaking on his behalf, at the news press conferences every day. But look at the systematic racism that this man has caused. And black people have not forgotten that. We see what he did. Now, I don't know Donald Trump personally, but I'm going to assume that he, like every other human being, has their prejudice and proclivities and their biases about other ethnicities. I know personally that you got white folks, who we call white folks, they say mean things about other white people. Polish people, they got their own designated name. Italians have their own designated name. Jewish people have their own designated names. These are white people talking. These are white people saying racist, bigoted things about other white people. I'm pretty sure that Donald Trump has said some racist things or thought of. Matter of fact, it's my understanding that his daddy was a member of the Ku Klux Klan back when the Klan made a rise, a comeback. Somebody type comeback in the chat room. Bottom line is, I'm not saying that Donald Trump is not racist, but when I look at his body of work, when I look at his life, first of all, let's just Google how many rap songs have referenced Donald Trump in the past 30 or 40 years before he became a Republican candidate for president. Look at all the photographs with him and Al Sharpton and all these other black dignitaries who've now come to the conclusion that he's this stark, stone cold racist. Maybe he is racist. But when I look at the kind of racism that he's committed, people keep bringing up this situation where he was sued for discrimination in housing. Yeah, he was sued, but there was never a judgment. Some people allege that he was suing, he didn't want black people living in his property, his apartments. That may very well be true. But I also know that he had a black woman living in one of his hotels for free, and she'd eat 3 meals a day. And as far as that lawsuit, and I'm not defending Donald Trump, I'm just saying, I'm looking at it from a business perspective. You got people who've sued you for discrimination and you settle the case, because that's what happened. Them settling the case is not an admission that he was discriminated against him. It's just a business decision being made. I'm going to settle this case so we can go on back to making business decisions and not have to worry about this. That doesn't mean just because somebody sues you, they make an allegation. That does not necessarily mean it's true. That's just an allegation. So either way, that's not even verified to be true, but that's him taking a personal action against some people that he had a contract with, a contract for living, establishing their living arrangement. Basically, that's what that was. And my understanding is he didn't want Section 8 people in there, but either way, that's not systematic racism. That's a businessman, that's a landlord evicting people that he doesn't want in his property. Nevertheless, maybe it is. Maybe it is racism. Maybe it is bigotry. Maybe he just didn't want black folk in his place. Yeah, maybe that is bigotry. Maybe that is racism. But it's not as system-wide as what Joe Biden did. It's not as contrived. Why did he let him in the first place if he didn't want him there? The other thing, people keep bringing up the Central Park 5. Allegations that these 5 young men, SA'd and brutalized a young white woman who was running through Central Park. And Donald Trump took a full-page ad out. And some years later, these young men were vindicated. They didn't do it. Okay, that's still not systematic racism. Yeah, it's a bad look. Yeah, it has racist undertones. Yes, it does. Yes. But when I compare that to what the 1988 crack bill and the 1994 crime bill did to the black community, there's no comparison. One is systematic racism. One is bigotry. One is basic one-on-one. I don't like you. You don't deserve to be. That's what that is. So, nevertheless, We can still argue that both of these men are racist. Now, the question is, whose policies are better for you? The president who we have or the one that we had before? And that's the decision that black folks have to make. Look, I'm not telling you who to vote for. I'm telling you to vote your interest. Let me say that again. I'm not telling you to vote for a Republican, Democrat, Green Party, no party. I'm not telling you to vote at all. I'm telling you, if you are going to vote, vote your interest. And if your interests are not voting at all, then do that. That's what I'm telling you. But my thing is, I want black folks to be more sophisticated about it. And I want you all to stop letting these politicians punk you into not voting your interests because they scaring you with racism. Racism that is always going to be here. Racism is like the weather. It's always something you're going to deal with. Sometimes there's fair weather. Sometimes it's stormy and cloudy. But it's always going to be there. Dress appropriately. That's the best you can do. It's always going to be there. If you go to another country, there's going to be racism there. A lot of you black folks going to Africa, it's tribalism over there. Not just against you, but the minute you start realizing that they have black people who've been neighbors for thousands and thousands of years who are still at war behind whose tribe is this and whose tribe is that, you'll realize we are not immune to tribalism, which is just a precursor to racism. We're not immune to that. White folks do it, Asians do it, Arabs do it. People from this religion and that. How can you have Muslims in Arab countries fighting with other Muslims in Iran and Iraq for years? And all of those are Muslims fighting each other, Sunni, Shiite. We always are going to find reasons to divide each other. The question is, what's in your best interest? That's the only question I'm asking. Let me go back to what I'm saying. I'm not a Trump supporter. So all you conservatives out there, I'm not necessarily with you. I'm with my own best interest. And it's ridiculous for you conservative, so-called black conservatives to try to sell us on the idea that racism doesn't exist. That is stupid. We had signs up in the 1950s and 60s that said racism. It literally said black and colored or and not white or non-white. We literally had signs separating people. And those people who adhered to those signs and those people who got accustomed to living with the culture that those type of signs and the laws that they're creating, they're still alive. The people that posted the signs up are still alive. You're ridiculous if you're one of these so-called black conservatives, black Republicans who want to sell the line that racism doesn't exist, trying to make white folk feel better. They think you stupid. They know racism exists. Hell, matter of fact, white folks from the Appalachian Mountains in Kentucky and Tennessee will tell you that the white folks on the East Coast treat them damn near like they treat black folks. And I don't mean sophisticated black folks. They treat them like white trailer park trash. They treat them like a level above the N-word. They can tell you that racism exists. The Irish can tell you that racism exists. The Italians can tell you that racism exists. The Polish can tell you that racism exists. The Jewish people can tell you that racism exists. So you so-called black conservatives who are telling white folks that racism doesn't exist, they don't even believe you. You don't have to be a black conservative and toe the line that racism doesn't exist to maintain your conservative values. What you should be saying is, yes, racism exists. It's something that you got to deal with. Period. It's nothing you can run away from. It's just something you have to deal with. That's the more manly, straight up, straightforward take you can have instead of trying to deny something doesn't exist, you just sound stupid. So stop doing that, because you lose credibility. You got all these black folks who experience racism, who've dealt with racism, and you want them to come over to the conservative or Republican Party. But the first thing you say, well, yeah, if you want to come be a conservative, you still got to believe racism. You got to believe racism doesn't exist. That's like the entry ticket. That's stupid. That's why you had so much difficulty getting black folks with common sense to join you. And I know you all do it, especially on YouTube. And there's some famous ones out there. You do it because you want white folks to feel comfortable, have a little comfortable, safe space to be. Come on over here. I won't make you feel uncomfortable. Come on over here, white folks. I need your likes and views. That's what you're doing. I know what you're doing. It's a hustle. I know just what you're doing. But you're losing credibility when you do that. Now, on the flip side, you got black so-called liberals, black Democrats, who believe your sole reason for voting and who you vote for should be based on how racist you perceive some candidate to be, especially if they're white. They got, at this point, they saying black people are racist. Black people with no power. I just explained to you what systematic racism is. And although I've used the term racist, what I really mean is prejudice and bigotry when I'm talking about that one-on-one racism. And you got black people who are prejudiced. Very much so. You got black people who are bigoted. And we didn't get it from white folks. We came over here from Africa with it. We came from Africa with our own proclivities and racism and tribalism. We brought it over here. We had our own brand of it. We got on the boat. I'm from this tribe. I'm from that tribe. Fighting each other on the slave ship. I'm Wolof. I'm such and such. And all of your black behinds in the same hull of the same slave ship. That's pretty stupid. But that whole reason was religion. Oh, they believe in the traditional African views. Well, we're Islam. We're Islamic. So we'll help you catch those ones with those traditional African views and put them on the boat. And all of y'all ended up on the boat. On your way over here. And thrown in together. So don't go blaming white folks for racism. We got our own brand of it. Hell, if white folks in there, we'll figure it out. Look at the Crips and Bloods. I'm a Crip. I'm a Blood. I'm a Piru. I'm a Damu. I'm a Vice Lord. Blah, blah, blah. This, that, and the other. Whatever. That's just more division. All those groups think they're better than each other. And some of them had the same grandparents. That's what's so crazy about it. Same genetics. Same neighborhood. Same community. Same schools. You literally are no different from each other on all levels. Again, the human being is designed to compete and survive. And part of competition requires you to have that extra oomph, that extra psychological boost that tells you you're better than, you deserve more than the other man. And so we're always trying to other each other. And that's what you see happening. Racism is just an outcropping of the human psyche, is the human ego. It's not going anywhere. It's always going to be part of life. So when you have these Democrats trying to sell you on the idea of who you should vote for based on who likes you the most, that's ridiculous too. Just as ridiculous as Republicans, black Republicans trying to convince you that racism doesn't exist. Both of y'all sound stupid. But the great thing is that we are more sophisticated than that, or at least we're becoming more sophisticated than that. Foundational black Americans in general, are becoming more sophisticated than to allow these different factions to play racial politics with us. I bet at this point, if Barack Obama ran for president, he wouldn't get the sort of turnout from black people that he got before. We were just so enthralled with him. The idea of having a black president was just such a cool idea to us. We didn't give a damn about his politics. We didn't care what he felt about the Rainbow Coalition. We didn't care about his past drug use. We didn't care about anything. We was just happy to have him in office. And so a lot of black Americans voted for that man solely because he was black. Has his policies helped you? My taxes were so high under Barack Obama. It made me consider voting Republican. I remember I wrote a check for $100,000 to the IRS, and I had just remembered George Bush, and my taxes were little or nothing. Under Barack Obama, as a small business owner, I paid more taxes than most people make in a lifetime. And it was after that I said, hell with these racial politics, man. I'm going to vote my interest. This is ridiculous. And that was basically my journey to becoming a Republican. And I'm not a registered Republican. I've just been a Democrat voting Republican. Now, I held my nose and voted for Hillary Clinton. Didn't want to do that. Because remember, she's the one that referred to black Americans my age as super predators back in the day, when her husband was president. And her husband was the one that signed Joe Biden's 1994 crime bill into the 1995 crime bill, the 1995 law that put so many black men in jail. But I held my nose and I voted for her. The only reason I did that is because Donald Trump, he was like, I don't know about this guy. I don't know about this guy, but he proved himself to me. I paid less taxes under Trump. That's why I voted for him in the 2020 election. And I'm going to vote for him in the 2024 election. Not because I think he's less racist, but because my interests align with his policies. That's it. My interests align with his policies. Let me explain to you what I mean, because I got to lay this down where the cows can eat it. Because there's a lot of people out there that are so blinded by their Trump phobia that when I say the man's names, you get breakout in highs. I don't care that this man is 80 years old, or almost 80. I don't care how many cases they put against him. I don't care about none of that. The only thing I care about is when he gets back in office, my taxes are going to be low. So the hard-earned money that I make, I can use more of that for my family. I can use more of that for my life. I can use more of that for my savings. That means I don't have to take loans out, or my children won't have to take loans out to put themselves through school. That's what that means to me. So the money that I make with my effort won't go to feeding and housing Venezuelan and Indian and African and Middle Eastern immigrant and Chinese immigrants. My money will stay in my pocket. I don't have to write another $100,000 check to the United States Treasury. Now, I believe in paying my fair share of taxes, but damn, really? 100 G's? I think the lowest I've paid in taxes is like $60,000. I'm like, where does it even go? What's the point of me even working? If all I got the Democrats got me paying money out the wazoo for people that just got here. How is that in my interest when I have my own family to take care of? When I have my own business I would like to expand? I paid more taxes under Barack Obama. I paid more taxes under Joe Biden. I would be much better off if we had more George W. Bushes and Donald Trump's in office. That's what I'm saying. That's my interest. As a small business owner, I want to expand my business. I want to be able to take care of my family. That's it. I don't care if they're racist or not. Racism is not going anywhere. It's going to be it's part of the American ethos. It's not going anywhere. And again, I truly believe that a lot of black men especially have gotten past that. I understand why black women would want to vote for the Democratic Party. They give you things. They give you that Lyndon B. Baines goodie package. You get welfare, Social Security, SSI. You get affirmative action. You get DEI. I know why you get it. Black men don't benefit from that. Black men are not lined up in the welfare line getting welfare checks for kids. Black men are not lined up in these Section 8 houses. Black men don't get that. It is in your interest, black women, to vote for the Democrat Party. It is in your interest to make anybody who would bring up the idea of voting for Republican Party for you to shame them. I get why you did. Even you hardworking black women that got jobs and have never been on welfare or anything like that, you still like the idea of having that safety net. That safety net means, well, at the end of the day, I'm not fully all the way dependent on this man I'm with. I can always get on welfare. I can always get on the county. I can always get that county check. Somebody type county check in the chat room. That's what we used to call it back in LA. Somebody called it the 1st and the 15th. Somebody typed the 1st and the 15th. That county check. That damn county check, man, boosts the economy twice a month in the neighborhood. On the 15th, they used to get those food stamps, them little pink and orange and green food stamps that be up at the local grocery market, grocery store basket full of food. And then they whip out their little book. This is before they got sophisticated with the card. Hey, I understand why. You don't need a man now. You don't need a man now. Oh, no. You stay down to me. I get out of my house. This house is not yours. The Section 8 is paying for this, but get out. Get out and stop eating my baby jungle juice. Yeah, I get why. Instead of having to depend on one man, you could depend on the government. The government is your man. And you don't have to take that stuff. He might keep you broke, but he gonna give you health insurance. He gonna give you a little place to live, a little food money. You know what I'm saying? You might get you one of them Obama phones. Yeah, I get it. But at the end of the day, that's still men collectively paying those taxes. So at the end of the day, you're not depending on one man, you're depending on a bunch of men. So I understand why black women would want to vote for the Democrat Party. I get that. It makes sense. But black men generally, we don't benefit from the policies of the Democratic Party. We don't benefit from it. And a lot of black men and a lot of black women, especially black married women, are shifting more towards the Republican Party. I do see that. And a lot of black women who are entrepreneurs are shifting towards the Republican Party. The richer you get, the more conservative you become. That does not mean racism doesn't exist. Again, I go back to that point. Y'all can be mad at me if you want to, man. And, you know, at the end of the day, I don't really care. But I'm just noting something in history and political history. And at the end of the day, what I'm basically saying is there's been a level of sophistication, an increase in the sophistication of black voters. We're beginning to see, we've seen things that we hadn't normally seen. We're voting in a way that is mysterious to a lot of these politicians. They thought they had us for years. All we got to do is scare these scared Negroes by telling them the racism boogeyman is out there to get them, and they ran over to the Democrat Party. But it's just not working anymore, especially with this particular client, presidential candidate Joe Biden. Is like, man, you really don't get too much more racist than him when it comes to systematic. I mean, he might not have a Klan hat on, but his pen certainly does. And we see it. We haven't forgotten. So I like it. I like the direction we're going. Again, I'm not telling you who to vote for. Don't get me jacked up with these so-called black conservatives or these Democrats. I'm telling you to vote your interests. And whatever happens, happens after that. Vote your interest. If you don't vote, fine. If that's in your interest not to vote, well, sit your ass down there. But vote your interest. and don't let them use the boogeyman of racism to scare you out of voting your interests. Like, share, subscribe. I love